Okay, so for these 5 examples, all we're doing is saying, is the equation a function or not? So basically what you have to think is that each x has one and only one y. So the first way that I do it is to visualize the graph. So if we think about y equals 8x plus 6, a quick sketch, it's in slope-intercept form. Plus 6 is my intercept, and then a slope of 8. Yes, that is definitely going to pass the vertical line test, so that is a function. Or, the second step, algebraically, you could solve for y, which it already is. F of x is like y. And then look and see, as long as we don't have a plus or minus, it is indeed a function. So, because it's already y equals, that means that it is going to be a function. Second one, if we change it, if it helps to see it as y instead of f of x, go ahead. That's what we're at. We have y by itself. There's no plus or minus in front, so this is a function. We did that algebraically. Or you could think of the shape of the graph. So x squared is going to be a parabola, down 3, and then it's flipped upside down. So, you know, the translations don't really matter. It's the general shape of the parent function that you have to think about. So that's a parabola, passes the vertical line test, it's a function. Third one, may or may not be as easy to see the shape of this graph, but if you relate it to this example 2, you see that only one y value is squared, and this time it's a y, so this is going to be sort of like a parabola, but graphically it's going to be a sideways parabola. We're going to shift down 4. It's going to look something like this because of the y squared value, so if we don't know the shape of the graph, that's what it's going to look like. Vertical line test is going to hit at 2 places with each x. That tells me that one x has 2 y's. This is not a function. If you want to see it algebraically, all we would have to do to get y by itself would be to square root both sides. But you have to remember that as soon as you take the square root, let me get this back into focus. As soon as you take the square root, you have to remember the plus or minus. Give it 1 second, it'll come back here. So we really have plus or minus square root of 4 plus x. That right there is what you get in as far as not being a function. Here we have the y squared, not a function. If we think of the graph, it's actually a circle. Radius of 5. Does not pass the vertical line test. And then the last one is the trickiest. We've got to get y by itself. So absolute value of x plus 8, and then we'll divide by 4. So y, absolute value of x plus 8 over 4. There's no plus or minus, so this is a function. And if you remember the parent function of the absolute value, it's the v, which would pass the vertical line test. It's going to be shifted up 8, and then it's going to have a wider slope. Think of it that way. So either of those methods will work graphically, or solve for y and make sure there's no plus or minus.